The most charismatic guys in the world have this rare ability to be both cold-minded and warm-hearted at the same time. And this duality is actually what makes a guy extremely attractive, not just to women, but to people in general. Like, people like being around this type of person. But most people tend to lean on one side or the other. It's very rare that you'll find someone who has that perfect balance. You know, with men being more logical, more cold-minded, with decision-making void of emotion, and women being a bit more emotional. They tend to think with emotions and lead with how they feel. And obviously some guys are more warm-hearted and end up becoming simps, and for women vice versa. Being cold-minded and being extremely logical is something that's very necessary for a guy because that's what's needed to have leadership qualities. You know, just someone that doesn't overreact or act based on how he feels or is controlled by his emotions. And this is something that women look for either subconsciously or consciously because on a biological level, they seek out guys who have leadership qualities. However, what tends to happen is that a lot of guys run the risk of leaning too much on the logical side and becoming too cold-minded. I'll give you guys an example, right? One of the biggest mistakes that I made in previous relationships was that I was too logical because that's what I believed that I needed to do. And I completely forgot about the fact that sometimes you need to have that warm-hearted side to cater towards their emotions. Even though, you know, it's kind of annoying sometimes, it's something that you have to do. And oftentimes you'll find that that's the disconnect in arguments between men and women. If you're a guy that's in a relationship or has been in a relationship, you're gonna know what I'm talking about. But it's where guys try to be super logical about the situation and then girls just want their emotions or feelings validated. There was one situation in particular where it was Valentine's Day and I was always the type of guy that was like, Valentine's Day is a scam, it's another scam holiday, it doesn't make any sense, why is there a day made for me to show my love to you? And I was telling her this, I was like, I tell you that every day, I show you every day. And even though at the time I thought it was cool, like she knew my perspective and she kind of felt the same way, or at least so I thought, you know, she was also kind of like, yeah, it's kind of whatever, flowers I don't really care about, etc. So I was like, cool, we're on the same page, it's all good. In retrospect, I could kind of tell she was slightly upset. And then of course, eventually that situation came back around and I was like, I thought you were cool with it. Like, why are you bringing this back up now? And then eventually it became a whole thing. But looking back on that situation, I was in the wrong. It's like, bro, just get the damn flowers. It doesn't matter if it's a scam or if it doesn't make sense or it's a scam holiday or whatever. Like, you don't have to be so logical and cold-minded all the time. Like, I know as guys, we all preach stoicism and having frame and staying within your emotions, like very basic talking points, right? But being able to be warm-hearted is actually a very powerful skill because having that warm presence about you exudes power. No matter what room you're in, it's something that you need to develop charisma. Whereas if you lean too much into the cold-minded logic, that can lead to isolation and introversion. And having that warm-hearted side will definitely help you with women if you know how to apply it correctly. And I've said this before, but this goes for everyone, guys and girls. Most people feel invisible in the world. People want to feel special. People want to be heard. People want to be seen. Like, people want to feel understood. When you have a warm heart, right, that's what allows you to draw people in. It's what makes people want to be around you. You know, it makes you more approachable, more sincere, more genuine, and there's a certain level of magnetism that comes with having that warm heart. Like, it gives you this strong presence about you, and when you're able to reach a point where you can finally balance the ability to have a cold mind and also a warm heart, then that's when your understanding of how to deal with people reach another level. You know, that's when you can make people feel valued and make people feel special. The most powerful ability that any person can ever have is to make someone else feel something. And that's when people start gravitating towards you, and women find this guy the most attractive. Because first of all, women are attracted to contrast, right? They love the idea of the guy with the hard exterior but the soft interior deep down inside. Having a warm heart allows you to draw her in. It allows you to build that deeper connection and that deeper bond. But also having a cold mind and logic also allows you to keep that respect and authority, which is necessary for attraction. Remember, if she does not respect you, she cannot be attracted to you. Respect and attraction are linked in a woman's eyes. You know, sometimes you might need to be more strong and more cold-minded when you need to be a protector or provider. You know, when you need to be the one to make decisions, when she's emotional or she needs someone to lean on, that's when you need to be stoic. And there's also times where you might need to be a bit warmer. You know, if you start getting too cold, that's when you push her away. Sometimes when you're too logical and too cold-minded, that makes you hard to connect with. It makes you distant. And if you're too distant, she doesn't feel loved, she doesn't feel wanted, she doesn't feel supported, etc. And having this contrast is attractive because it stimulates psychological and emotional curiosity. Because people who can do this have an ability to make you feel a range of emotions. And to a woman, right, there's something safe and exciting about a guy who can play both sides of the coin. And also, you gotta understand this, right? If you really think about it, most of the times women are dealing with the extremes. Like, most of the times guys are either too warm-hearted and end up simping for the girl, Or they're guys that are just super cold and just want to smash. And a lot of guys think that, well, those are the guys that get what they want. But it can also backfire. Like you're playing too much into the emotionally detached, logical dude that's composed but closed off. You basically run the risk of trying to act too hard. And bro, if a woman feels emotionally starved and disconnected, she will eventually start looking elsewhere. Like they need some level of warm-heartedness from the man they love. And of course, if you're too warm-hearted, right, you come off too emotionally vulnerable. You know, no boundaries, a bit overgiving, a bit overbearing, and you run the risk of being too soft, essentially. You know, just the guy that caters towards her feelings way too much. And eventually she's gonna lose some level of respect or sexual attraction for this type of guy. And actually, I had a supporter that was emailing me about a breakup that he was going through, and he was sending me the text messages of the back and forth between him and his girl, or ex-girl. And bro, it was like the saddest thing ever. Like it hurt me to read because I could tell like he was a really genuine guy, like based on the messages. You know, extremely warm-hearted, loved his girl a lot, like he was trying really hard to work things out with his girl. And even though it was pretty obvious that his girl was checked out and didn't even want to respond, he was sending her paragraphs while she was sending a few messages back. Like she even said verbatim, "You're a very kind, loving person, you didn't do anything wrong, I'm the one being selfish, X, Y, and Z," which obviously isn't the entire truth. And he was saying things like, "What do I have to do? I'll make sure that you never have to work again, I'll take care of the both of us." Like he was willing to quit his job, work at her company just to help her out. And I was like, this poor guy, like he's a genuine guy, but he's saying and doing all the wrong things in his situation. Like he was basically begging her to stay, which is something you never do in any situation because you're putting yourself in the ultimate position of weakness. And I could tell she was getting visibly annoyed with her responses. Like she was trying to spare his feelings in the beginning, but as the conversation went, she just got progressively colder and colder. And even though he only briefly described his relationship and sent a few text messages, it was pretty obvious that this was the stereotypical case of the nice guy finishing last. Like he definitely crossed the point of no return for leaning too much on the warm-heartedness. Like it was obviously the case where she lost all respect and attraction for him even though he didn't technically do anything wrong. And of course I responded to him and told him what it was, but this is a prime example of a situation where a guy could really benefit more from having that cold-minded logic. Because despite the fact that you love your girl and want to work things out and pour your heart out, you know, as much as you want to do that, you gotta have the awareness and clear-minded logic to understand that not only is that not going to change anything, but you're actually further losing respect and attraction in her eyes and for yourself as well. Bro, if a woman wants to break up with you, it's 9 times out of 10 the case where she's been checked out for a while. The best thing you can say or do is say, "I understand how you feel, it's unfortunate things turned out this way, but I wish you the best." So despite how you feel in the situation, whether it's wanting to pour your heart out, wanting to reach out, double text, etc., your logic should always supersede those feelings in that moment to make the best decision for yourself possible, to make the best move on the board that's void of your emotions. But yeah, basically being able to be cold at mind but also warm at heart is not only the best approach for women, but in life in general. Whether it's your professional life, your social life, your career, relationships, like everything in life is just dealing with people. So when you can do both, that's when you optimize your interactions and your relationships. That's when you become the most ideal version of yourself. You know, just the guy that's stoic, calm, bold, composed, level-headed, but also at the same time have an understanding for people and emotions and being able to make people feel special. You know, just being able to make people feel valued based on your presence. You know, you just gotta have that fire and ice contrast. Anyways, hopefully you guys are doing well. Make sure you guys stay true. Talk to you guys real soon, and I'll see you at the top. Peace.